What's up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. It is time for another episode of the Agents of Fandom podcast. I'm your host, TJ Zwarich, ready to chat the Penguin episode 5, and we got a small little crew today. It is just myself. It is TJ squared. Fat Thor, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I was just thinking we should have just found 2 other TJs just to make it a whole TJ crew this week. But yeah, man, I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk about this episode. Again, we say this every week, but each episode is better than the last. I'm like, oh, this was the best one. Oh, this was the best one. So this show is just amazing.
So I think this is the first episode that wasn't better than the last. And I don't think this one was bad by any means. I think it's just because episode 4 was so spectacular.
I mean, no disagreements about that.
I gave my reviews are up on agentsofandom.com. I gave it a 5 out of 5 for episode 4, 4 out of 5 for episode 5. Still great. Still absolutely fantastic.
That's fair.
Yeah. But didn't quite match up to episode 4 for me. But ready to break this down with you. Before we do that, smash that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you're watching us on YouTube. Help us build this community so we can reach as many of you as possible. Comment your theories, your ideas of what is going on in this series right down there below in the comment section. And of course, make sure you subscribe to the Agents Fandom wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on socials at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. I'm tired. I'm going to admit I'm tired. I'm running on fumes right now. I was at New York Comic Con all weekend, got home at about 2 a.m. last night. And I had an absolutely amazing time, but it was exhausting. Got some really cool panels on Thursday with get to see really close up the Shrinking Cast. Went to the Dragon Ball Daima one. And then on Thursday night, my wife and I went to Romeo and Juliet with Rachel Zegler and Kit Connor. And we got some videos there, got autographs from both of them. And so not videos of the show, but videos of them walking out after. So stay tuned to the Agents of Fandom socials and YouTube page for those. But I gotta say, like, it was good. It was great. But shockingly amazing how Kit Connor was. Like, that performance was stupidly good. We know he's a good actor from Heartstopper, but seeing him in this, I was absolutely blown away by Kit Connor's performance. Friday, things stepped up from a work perspective at New York Comic Con. I got to meet Haley Atwell, got an autograph there. And then had a Bear McCreary interview. We got 3 questions in, a good 5-minute interview coming soon to the Agents of Fandom YouTube page. Bear, of course, is the composer of Rings of Power, Percy Jackson, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and so much more. So make sure you check that one out. It is going to be coming soon. I got interviews and roundtables from Hysteria, an upcoming show that is very spooky. It's set in the Satanic Panic in the 80s with a heavy metal band. I got to talk to Bruce Campbell, Julie Bowen, Anna Camp. So stay tuned for an article on that one. Same thing with the Simpsons roundtable. Talk to the creators of that one, as well as some cast, Hank Azaria. And Image Comics interview about the Energon universe with G.I. Joe, Transformers, Void Rivals, and I did get to talk to Robert Kirkman as well about a little bit of Invincible stuff, so stay tuned for that. And of course, we finished off with Creatures Commandos, and that was a really, really fun panel as well. Got to get right up close to James Gunn, say hello, talk to Sean Gunn. He remembered me from Edmonton Expo, so that was pretty cool. New York Comic Con overall, just a really, really good time. And I'm going to have lots of articles and videos coming to the website and the YouTube page. So make sure you stay tuned for those. Fat Thor, what you been watching? What you been reading? Because I got nothing. I've been so busy with this.
Well, first of all, you were working, my friend. I know that the conventions can be exhausting, so very impressive. I can't wait for all that stuff myself. But I mean, you know, I reading a little bit of everything, watching a little bit of everything. A couple things I'd like to shout out: the new X-Men line from the Ashes, all really, really great. If y'all are into X-Men, want to check out some comics, those are really great. And I'm still on my James Bond kick. Honestly, that's like my new hyper fixation currently. Now that Rings of Power is over, so I've started reading Casino Royale, which is very dated, but it's a good read. I'm enjoying it. I'm about six chapters in so far, and that's good. So yeah, and then obviously Penguin, one of the best shows out right now.
And of course, we will be covering Agatha All Along with another live show Wednesday immediately after that as well. So stay tuned for that one. We have a fun guest. I haven't quite 100% confirmed yet, so I will announce that on socials shortly. But let's talk about the Penguin. Give me your thoughts on episode 5.
I mean, again, I just have to reiterate, one of the best shows on television right now. I really love this episode. I don't disagree with you in the sense of last episode being better than this one. I think last episode is definitely a better made episode. Like it's like almost like a movie. Like the performances just amazing. So like I definitely agree with you, and I think a 5 out of 5 versus 4 out of 5 is totally fair. But I just really enjoyed this one because I just felt like we moved forward in so many different areas. Like we got a lot of the things that have been set up, I feel like not concluded, but we're kind of hitting the peak with all that. So that's what I really enjoyed about this one. We got a little bit from everybody: Victor, the mom, Sofia, Oz. So yeah, I mean, I really liked this episode because, like I said, I feel like we really are hitting the peak of our plot. And then we got 2 episodes left, right? Or 3?
I can't remember if it's an 8 or a 9 episode series.
Well, either way, if it's 2 or 3, it just feels like here's the peak, and then the last couple episodes, like we're gonna be getting the consequences, like
3
the
left.
action. Yeah, 3 left. So like we're starting to pull the trigger. You know what I mean? So it's exciting.
Shadow, my cat, missed me, and so he's trying to get in here and hang out, and he has now just decided he's going to try and knock all the Eternals Funko Pops off of my shelf
Not
over
the
there. So
Eternals. Come on,
apologize for the
kitty.
noise. Here's Shadow. If you're watching us on video, here's my cat, Shadow. He didn't like me being gone for 5 days, and so he's happy. He's happy I'm home. I'll go kind of like even a step further as to why I think this one wasn't quite as good as episode 4. Not a slight at all, but because I think episode 4 might have been the best episode of television I've watched this year, like genuinely. And
totally
so,
fair.
Episode 5, though, I agree with you. It really felt like a great setup for the final act of the season. You know, it feels like all the pieces are now in place for Sofia and Maroni, which we'll get to go to war against Oz. And so it's it kind of just, we've been having this kind of mystery throughout of how will this story go. And I'm sure there's still going to be a lot of twists and turns we don't expect, but it really does feel like all the pieces are now in place. We're ready to just hit go for episodes 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of, like I said, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe rephrase my original statement. Maybe not better than last episode, but like I said, it's just exciting because I feel like you said, everything's set up now, and like we're about to get the meat of the action.
We get Taj Maroni and Johnny Vitti just getting kidnapped and tortured throughout the start of this episode. Taj with Oz and Vic because they got to torch their car. They got to find somewhere to go, and they need some leverage. The Maronis have all the drugs. And so what do? They kidnap the Maroni's son, Taj, try and go make an exchange. Exchange, of course, goes poorly, you know, and they never go well. And the trade-off never goes well. Guns get pulled on Oz and Vic, and although it looks at first like, you know, they've just been dousing him with water, he's so cold, Taj Maroni is actually doused in gasoline. And so as soon as he goes and hugs Nadia, his mother, Oz drops the lighter on both of them, and they manage to escape scot-free in terms of their lives. But, you know, They light their oppositions on fire. They're gone. Obviously, they just burned to death. It was gruesome, but also that was really cool how they did that. And them being lit on fire ignites the sprinklers above. It gets the bliss all wet, and their drugs are ruined. They tell us earlier in the series this has to be kept in a very dry space. There can be no moisture. They get doused.
That was my first thought in that whole scene with all the craziness going on. I'm like, dude, those mushrooms are done. Like you said, they totally set it up in the other episode. Like, dude was like, had him in like this like vault almost, like it has to be exact temperature. So as soon as, and not only that, but they didn't even cover it afterward, like when they're driving through the city. So I'm like, oh yeah, these mushrooms are for sure done. But I mean, I loved this scene for a lot of different reasons. Obviously, the kind of shock factor of it, oh my, like you said, oh, it's gasoline, right? But I thought it was just a lot of it was very smart in the sense of, like you mentioned, we see in the scene either before that or earlier in the episode, Sofia is dousing Vidi with water, right, to torture him. So I feel like they kind of set that up to subvert us. So when we see Taj, we assume it's water because, like, oh, we just saw that, right? And I also think it was smart in the sense of the past 4 or 5 episodes. Yeah, Penguin has done some bad things, but I feel like we've really like gotten to know him a lot. A lot of us have been sympathizing him a lot, like in the last couple episodes, and this served as a strong reminder that Penguin is not a good dude. He is not a nice guy. Like, yeah, he has, maybe some qualities that people can relate to, but he is a straight up bad dude. And like I said, I think it was important to kind of reestablish that and remind us, like, yeah, we built a relationship with this character, but you should not, this isn't someone you necessarily want to root for.
I couldn't agree more. Very well said. And he realizes throughout this process via the news on TV that Sofia has killed her entire family. The news doesn't know that, but he puts 2 and 2 together. And she manages to convince the police to get off of her back. Like you said, she's torturing Vidi with the water. He convinces her to. We were talking last week, like, she kept him alive. Why? She needs him. Is she going to be using him long? You thought she was going to use him as an example. And it turns out that was exactly the case because she uses him to gather all the troops, all the henchmen left that she can find. I'll let you, I'll throw it to you to kind of describe this scene because, like you said, the way that she drops the money on the table, it reminded you of some things.
Yes, it did. I mean, this was 100% a power move by Sofia. And obviously, we get it set up last episode. And like you said, we were both kind of right because you said that, she was going to use him in some way. I said that, maybe she just got a little special something planned for him. And again, we were both right because she does use him to kind of get everybody at the table, but then uses him as the example, like, anyone can go at any time. And I loved the scene. So then after that, she throws all the money on the table, which also I want to say, shout out Sofia. We love a socialist girly, progressive girly. How she mentioned, like, oh, this money was made off of your labor. I like that little addition. But she then, the one guy like kind of goes for the money a little bit, like, oh, is this okay? And she's like, okay, go ahead. And I was like, that's literally like how I feed my dog. Like when I feed my dog, like he has to wait. And then once I tell him it's okay, then he, goes at it. And they just like start going at this money. And again, it just, to me, I read that as just total power move. She's asserting her dominance, like again, like you would with a dog, right? And these dudes just are eating it up, right? And it just, the power dynamic has completely shifted. So that scene made me laugh, and I thought it was, again, kind of a very strong statement of Sofia is fully in charge now.
It may be dark, but I can't lie. When Vidi got shot in the head, I laughed at that scene too.
I was like, yo, that was one of those that I was like, oh, I was not expecting, like, because when she brought him, I was like, oh, Tej was right. Like, she's going to use him a little bit. So that was like, oh, I expected it, but didn't expect it.
Well, I don't know if she had necessarily planned that either. For that specific moment, it was just, oh, you're questioning me. It's not undenying loyalty. Bang. Like, that's why you're here. You're here to say yes no matter what I say and make other people buy in. If you're not doing that, I have no need for you. And she let him know. Oz's plan, however, not quite going to according, his scheme isn't quite going according to plan, because while he kills Taj and Nadia, he gets someone in jail to stab Salvatore Maroni, but he doesn't die, and he uses all the distraction to get out of there. And so Salvatore Maroni makes his way back to his little safe house, and that's where Sofia ends up meeting up with him and linking up with him. There's a really good interview with Brandon Davis and Kristen Milotti from New York Comic Con, where she talks about her reasons for, you can find that up on Brandon Davis's YouTube page. She describes her reasons for teaming up with him. And one, it's a power move, it helps both of them in the fight against Penguin. And two, there's probably nothing that would piss off her dad more than teaming up with his mortal enemy. And so it's kind of like a two birds, one stone. She denounces the Falcone name, and she officially starts the Gigante crime family. I'm excited to see where Sofia goes from here.
Same. I wasn't expecting the team up, but as soon as she proposed it, I'm like, oh, this makes perfect sense. Like, this is the only move, really. Especially now that she knows Oz killed the brother and set her up, all that. They, enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? And you can't take Mr. Krabs down that easily. So that I was surprised he survived, but I'm glad he did, because this is setting up something super. Again, I'm excited to see where this goes. And I think this also kind of confirmed, we've talked a lot about, how much is Oz planning? How much is he just kind of responding to situation? He's for sure just responding to the situation right now. Like you said, all of his plans are just kind of crumbling before our eyes.
And it's to return to kind of what you said earlier of how this episode is really showing us that Penguin is not a good guy. He's not a protagonist. Yes, it's a story about him, but it's not a protagonist. He's not an anti-hero. We see why he's a villain, but we also understand how he gets there. When Vic takes his mom back to Crown Heights, it's Vic's old neighborhood. Everything's destroyed. We're probably what was the dude from the flashbacks name who he saw again? His buddy's older brother who was bad news. Squid. Squid sees him, so maybe that's gonna come back to bite him later.
Yeah, but for sure.
The stuff with Deirdre, Deirdre O'Connor, that's the author, that's the actor's name. Frances, Penguin's mom, and Vic, it's hard hitting, it's emotional. It's part of what makes this show so incredible, with these great character performances in line with the cool plot stuff that's also happening in other scenes. The way they weave the A and B stories together throughout the long runtime is incredible. And every minute is worth it. And it's an hour of television that goes by so fast, but also just feels like you got everything you need. It's just such a perfectly crafted television show. And it is really emotional seeing them together, and how shitty Penguin's mom is, and leading you to understand. I mean, obviously now she's obviously very mentally ill. We don't know that has been the case throughout their whole life. If it is, I mean, then it's tough to even blame her as well. But the way she treats him is awful. And of course you're going to grow up shitty if your parents are treating you shitty, And so, I mean, no, not of course. So there's lots of people who get past it. It's not an excuse, but it's an understanding. It's an analyzation, right? It's not making an excuse for the shittiness, but it's saying, oh, that is why the shittiness is there. And at the very end, when he comes to meet her, he's just happy his mom's okay, and she's like, I'm so disappointed in you. why are we back here? This is exactly the same type of place where we started.
She's
And
a
now
hard
I'm
woman to
back here.
please, for sure.
Like, it's tough, and you understand it, and you can still see a villain and go, hey, that's a villain, while realizing how they got there. And it's one of the things that makes this show really, really strong. And although almost all of the bliss is gone, and it looks like their backs are against the wall with nowhere to go, while Sofia and Salvatore team up and look like they're ready to take over Gotham, they find a brand new hideout underground. It's dry, it's abandoned, and they have 2 plants left. Will they be able to recreate it? Will they go find Sofia's old people and try and bring them into the fold? I don't know. What do you think happens next here? They got a new hideout, and they got hope. And if I'm being honest, I still don't know that I'm cheering for them over Sofia. I feel like I'd kind of rather she wins.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I might be team Sofia at this point too. And the cave, I got a couple points to make about what we just talked about. But the hideout, and I actually just slipped up. I said cave. Was I the only one getting major Batcave vibes with that? Especially
Penguin version of the Batcave, yeah.
No, literally. And we've talked about the kind of parallels between Penguin and Victor and Batman and Robin. And I feel like they're kind of intentionally playing on this parallel of, like, not saying Penguin is a Batman type character, but this, again, we kind of talked about the classism
as a foil, yeah.
Exactly, like the structure of the social aspect of Gotham. And they talk a lot about how Crown Heights and the East Side is kind of forgotten. And obviously, Bruce Wayne, Batman, grew up on the nice part of town. So I feel like we're kind of seeing a parallel of, again, how someone that comes from the lower side of Gotham, the more seedy side, has navigated this world, but have come to certain, similar conclusions. And I also got to say, with Oz's mom, first of all, am I the only one who thinks that him and his mom kind of have a weird relationship? Like, when he was like snuggling her on the bed, I'm like, I don't get me. Hey, I totally, you love your mother. I'm not, nothing about that. But that seemed a little weird for me, a little too close.
Well,
but
we talk about it with. We talked about it a little bit last week about how when you have intense traumas as a child, that kind of part of your brain locks, and it doesn't fully grow up to the adult brain. You kind of have a portion of that brain chemistry trapped in your childhood brain. And when those traumatic moments get triggered later on, it brings you back there. That we talked about that with Sofia and the Hangman stuff with her dad. And I think that's probably a little bit of the case with Oz.
I like that read a lot better.
Time mommy issues, right? His mom never loved him. She treated him like, I don't know,
garbage.
Like garbage, but like not a slave, not a soldier, but like someone who's just solely there for the purpose of uplifting her in their life.
Yeah.
Not a child, just a tool.
100%. And again, we've talked about this many times, but like the Sopranos parallel, like she's totally like Tony Soprano's mom, if anyone's watched that. And she was one of my favorite characters, but kind of similar thing. Like Tony could never live up to her expectations. And so I think we're seeing a similar thing here. But I also think, like you were saying, we get kind of an understanding of why Oz is the way he is. Not, doesn't excuse it, but you get a little bit more understanding. I felt like we kind of got that with the mother as well in this episode, and specifically in the line she says to Victor when she says the East Side will eat you alive. Like, it'll take everything that you love from you. So I feel like I read into that as like, while she's a terrible mom and like a terrible person, she's also a victim of this. And again, I keep going back to the same theme, but again, the class structure of Gotham and how people that live on this side don't have opportunities. And so she was trying to raise 3 kids in this environment. And Oz also talks a lot about Yeah, and Oz talks about how the city kind of raised them, like the city was their playground and all that. So I think it adds a lot of context to their relationship, why both of them are like this. And I also I want to get your thoughts on this. I feel like Oz had something to do with his brother's death. Not in the sense of like he killed them or anything like that, but like they were in a situation and he could have helped them, but they ultimately, ended up dying because he said, I wasn't strong enough, or like I was too weak. So I feel like that is also another layer of this wanting to please his mother, feeling like he has to make something up to her. Like I think he feels responsible for the brother's death, and we're going to find out how that played out.
It comes back to those Batman parallels, right? Where above all, Batman will always choose Gotham over himself. Always. Even if he doesn't go about it the right way certain times, Batman has some flaws on occasion, but Batman always, most of them how he treats other people because of how he's always putting Gotham ahead of himself, but he always will no matter what. That's when it comes down to it. It is Gotham over Bruce. It is Gotham over Batman. That is why he is more Batman than Bruce Wayne. Like Bruce Wayne is the alter ego and Batman is the man. For Penguin, it is the opposite. He will talk about how he will want to be benevolent. He will talk about how, like, in the best of times, I want to help. But in the worst of times, he will always choose himself. And I think that's the biggest such a good descriptor of what's the difference between good and bad. Not even necessarily hero and villain, but good and bad is when times are tough, a good person wants to help others. When times are great, that's when you want to celebrate yourself, because you can. Things are good. Versus a bad person, when times are tough for the world, they only care about how things will affect themselves, not anybody else around them. Whereas when times are good, yeah, maybe that's when everybody else can get a little bit of help, as long as I'm fully taken care of.
As long as I got mine, right?
Yeah, exactly. As long as I got mine, then somebody else can get theirs. Don't cancel. How could you cancel student loan debt when I have to pay for mine?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just pettiness.
And so I think that's a very interesting contrast between these two characters, where Batman will always choose Gotham. Penguin, no matter who he's dealing with, Sofia, Victor, anybody, he's always choosing himself, even if it's just to get ahead just a little bit.
I say even just like a little step ahead. And I just want to bring up just very quickly, since we're on like the Batman parallel topic, something else I noticed, and this could just be my conspiracy theory brain working overdrive like it does, but I also thought it was interesting when they're in their hideout and, Oz is like, this is, we're going up, right? Like things are going to be great. The lights cut out. And I mean, again, I could just be reading too much into this, but to me, I kind of read that as like a parallel again to Batman and like the kind of symbolism of like the darkness is always watching. Like Batman might not be there, there I am the night, I am vengeance, right? And so I don't know, I just thought that was a cool little detail that potentially could just have been like a kind of visual representation of that. Like Batman is somewhere out there. I don't think we'll see him, but again, I just thought that was cool. I just wanted to bring that up.
I almost took it as like we're moving up, we're good. Light turns off. No, you're not, buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
You're
like kind of
you're still screwed.
Yep, like Batman's still gonna get you in the end, no matter what.
What do you think we got set up for these final 3 episodes? We have 6, 7, and 8 still coming. Who ultimately comes out on top? Is Penguin coming out alive? Is Sofia coming out alive? Is Sal Maroni coming out alive? Same with Vic. What do you think? Does Vic get out? Does Vic unfortunately not make it? What do you think? How do you think this ends up?
Unfortunately, I don't think we're gonna have a happy ending here. Like you said, we're following a villain at the end of the day, and someone who's not a good guy. So I don't think this will have a happy ending. Maroni, I think, will be done. I think they'll they'll get him in the end. Sofia, I think she'll stick around because not only is she such an interesting character, but I think especially after the reception of her performance this season, she's not a one and done. She's going to be in this universe, I think.
I hope not. I think it would be a very, very big mistake if she's not heavily featured in the Batman's Part 2 or Batman 2, whatever it's called.
Well, I mean, I feel like she should, which I think the show is, that's what they're doing, take Falcone's spot, and like she will be the new underground kingpin. Does that mean like she'll play a huge role in the Batman 2? Maybe not, but she,
as long as she doesn't even need a huge role in the plot, as long as she gets some screen time.
That's what I mean.
Like
just
if it's Batman
like
coming to visit her or something like that.
Yeah, like she is the underground crime boss now. Victor, unfortunately, I don't think is gonna make it. I want him to so bad. I love him, but again, I feel like the show is intentionally making us love him, so that way when he does go out, it's gonna be very heartbreaking and really affect us as the audience. But yeah, I think it's just going to get crazy. It's going to get crazy. And I saw an interview with Colin Farrell, which after we saw this episode, I'm thinking maybe this is what he was alluding to. But he said something along the lines of like, or maybe he said episode 8 specifically, said something happens in there that like really establishes like that, like Oz is a villain. And he was like, I even like asked like, oh, did HBO sign off on this? Because it's like brutal. So I'm thinking, again, that has to relate to Vic. And someone else made this point that I agree with is the season is going to have to end on something kind of crazy. Or like I said, Oz doing something really bad because we need a reason for Batman to come after him again. I mean, we know that that's going to happen. But, right now he's just doing kind of low level stuff. So I feel like we're going to have some kind of big inciting incident for Batman, like you said, in the next Batman movie or whatever, that Batman's going to need to follow up with that.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I do think we were just talking about how how Penguin ultimately always chooses himself over the good of anyone else. I don't know if I don't think it'll be like the Penguin killing Victor, but I think it'll be clear he has a chance to save him or he can get away, and he's choosing to get away, and that's leading to Vic's death.
I could go both ways on it.
That's who he is,
Yeah, I just feel like
ultimately he's a coward.
Yeah,
and 100%. Like he likes to act tough, and he's not necessarily a coward in the sense of he's afraid of dangerous situations. Because he's pretty good in those dangerous situations. He's a coward in the sense of he says he wants to do good things, but when he has the chance to, he doesn't. He doesn't. Because our co-host and friend Damon is not here, I'll throw in a couple of thoughts that he had. He's still on the Eve Carlo is Clayface train. We saw Penguin try and bring Eve with him. And it didn't work in this episode. We'll see where that happens from there. He had one other. Oh, he is still actively hoping for Tony Zuko to show up in this show so we can get a little Dick Grayson reference. I am hoping for that as well here. I feel like there is still room in these next 3 episodes to introduce us to other big crime people throughout Gotham as Sofia's, setting up potential partnerships and things like that, or potentially Oz is. And so that would be a really cool thing for that to step in there, maybe get our potential. My dream for these DC universes is good. 34 is a good stamp for this, is because I want to maybe clip this. My dream for the DCU and then Matt Reeves' universe is, since we're getting Damian Wayne in The Brave and the Bold, I'm assuming that means we will have Nightwing there already established. There's all these rumors and reports that a Teen Titans movie is already in the work, or some kind of Titans movie is already in the works. Nightwing's my favorite character in DC Comics, and then just like I love Dick Grayson in general though, and I'm honestly not a big Batman guy, but I love the Bat family. And so I'm really hoping we get, Damian and full extensions of the Bat family all the way up to Nightwing and Brave and the Bold in that universe. And then in this one, I really hope we get young Dick Grayson Robin with Bruce, like maybe even with Pattinson's Batman, even if it's not in this movie, maybe it's the end of the next Batman movie and then we get it in the third one. And that could be a way of having it like you get a little time jump so he doesn't have to be super young. I really hope we get that in this universe. So I think this show could be one of the first ways of planting that little seed. On to next week. We are going to have, I believe, Caesar and Zen taking over the host, the Listen 3000 crew taking over hosting next week, as long as scheduling goes all to plan. So make sure you tune in for our breakdown of Penguin episode 6. And then we also have Agatha All Along coming this week as well. We'll be live on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere immediately after the show at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you tune in for that one. And check out agentsfandom.com and our YouTube page, because I got lots of great New York Comic Con content dropping here soon. Stuff from the show floor. We'll have videos and pictures from the show floors. I got to do a lot of the fun experiences there. Got to meet a lot of the celebrities. Got to do roundtables for Hysteria, for Simpsons, for the Skybound and Energon universe with Robert Kirkman and Joshua Williamson. So we'll be dropping articles on all of those, as well as a Invincible article talking about season 3 and why there's not a gap like there was in season 2. So stay tuned for that. As well as my interview with composer Bear McCreary, Rings of Power, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Percy Jackson, so much more. Fat Thor, what's coming up on the Comic Corner?
Oh, we got some exciting stuff coming for the Comic Corner. So every Thursday, you can check out me, Damon, and AF reviewing all the best books of the week, our favorites, news, interviews, and we got some good interviews coming. I'll tell you, I can't reveal them yet, but we may have a certain Superman writer on pretty soon. Also, maybe a pretty well-known Batman artist as well. And like I said, we got exciting things coming. So keep an eye out on the Comic Corner. Again, every Thursday you can catch us. And of course, check out agentsoffandom.com. Check us out on TikTok, Instagram, anywhere.
Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. Smash that like button if you're watching on YouTube. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, subscribe to the Agents Fandom wherever you get your pods. Thanks so much for joining us this week, everyone, and we will see you again on Wednesday for Agatha All Along. Peace.